All right, super quick run through of the performance activity that you'll be doing in your content area groups due Monday, October 16th. Just want to reiterate some of the basic tenets of the assignment. What I'm really trying to do here is give you an opportunity to work in the context of a real teacher dilemma or problem scenario. In this case, for each grade, I've given you real units or real lessons, real problems of practice that teachers are facing around developing an assessment for a lesson or a unit. And I want to give you the opportunity to try to problem solve alongside of them. I want to clarify this is not going to be graded, but it will contribute to your participation grade. And it's really to set us up for the next class period as well. We'll talk more about performance assessments as well as about rubrics, which will be the subject of your reading for the 19th. So the assignment task is going to be the same regardless of your subject area. I gave subject-specific scenarios and subject-specific materials, but everyone has roughly the same task. And that is, I want to give you practice articulating learning targets for the performance assessment that you're developing or the end of lesson assessment you're developing if you're in math. I want you to just practice developing the student-facing documents for the task and just to have an opportunity to explain your rationale, what you did and why you did it. I just want to reiterate again this idea that what's guiding us is this theory of this idea about approaching planning from a rational lens, and that is this backwards design to keeping the end in mind. That is, you start with the goal or desired outcome of what you're trying to do, you then determine how to measure it, and from there start developing the building blocks to get you there. So this question that we start with is, what do I want students to understand and know and be able to do? And then from there we say, how can I assess that? So first it's what, and then how. So according to Moss and Brookhart, or at least I modified it, this is the way we use learning targets as a way to do the backwards design. We start first by just naming what it is that students must know and be able to do. And in this case, there's three pieces. That's the knowledge, the skills, and the reasoning. And an easy way to distinguish skills and reasoning is that skills may involve really thinking about the products of the process of the work. So for instance, students might develop an experiment, or they might write a paper for the skills side, right? Or they might organize their paragraphs, etc. The reasoning is that Bloom's taxonomy, the depth of knowledge piece that you're looking at. It's the rigor, the cognitive demand of the work they're doing, the actual thinking they're doing. And that's going to be more things like create, analyze, etc. So your first step is going to be able to identify all that. What is it that you're trying to measure? And the second step is going to be how are you going to measure, right? You're going to come to a general agreement about the performance of understanding that will prompt what you identify in step one. And when you get to step two, all you really need to do at this point is just say, we want them to, they're going to write in this way, or they're going to develop an experiment, what have you. You just need to align what you do in one with what the assessment design will be. Then you'll develop the learning targets. And then from there, you'll develop the full task. So you're going to it's iterative. You're going to bounce back and forth between naming what it is people should know and what they should be doing. And you're going to use the development of each to get to the full task. So I want to point out a couple of things to get started on. One is you're going to see in the unit plans and the lesson plans that standards are already identified. The unit goal or the learning objective is probably already going to be named as well. But when we're trying to get to learning targets, we're trying to zero in specifically on what it is students are going to demonstrate or know for us. So you can't just simply take the standard or just take the lesson and just put it into a learning target. You've got to actually convert it into something that's specific to the actual outcome being desired. So that's why I say here in the second bullet, your learning target should be specific to the knowledge, skill, or reasoning, and the performance of understanding. So you're going to take step 1 and 2, right? You're going to know what it is students should know and be able to do, and you're also going to know how you think they're going to be able to perform that. And you're going to use that to get specific in those I can statements about what the learning target is, or targets, of the performance assessment. So, for example, and this is from an 8th grade science curriculum, and I apologize in advance to my science people for botching the knowledge piece. But here you have this next generation science standard at the top, which was listed in the unit that I pulled this from. And you can see as well, there's a learning outcome stated in the unit as well. That's pretty darn close to being a cut and paste version of the standard. The teachers identified some of the knowledge, skills, and reasoning stated in the unit, including analyzing and interpreting data, developing and using models and scale, proportion, quantity, and density. So taking all of those things, I'm using the language of the standard. I'm using what I think the learning outcome is, because there's a slight change in terms of determining what the type of reaction is. And using what I know about what it is they're prioritizing in terms of knowledge, skills, and reasoning, I developed 2 learning targets as a result, right? And you can see here the performance of understanding is actually built into the learning target too. I can design a model or experiment that measures the change in density of a solid. So you can see here that I've created a target that addresses a task, right? Design a model or experiment that also gets specific about what it is that students can do. In this case, they're measuring the change in density of a solid. And you can see here I've also attended to the learning outcome as well in a more specific statement. In the second one, I can determine what type of chemical reaction occurs when given 2 substances. So again, notice the drill down here. I'm using what the standard and the learning outcome and the knowledge, the things listed already in the unit or lesson plan to further clarify what it is students should know and be able to do in the specific context of either the assessment or the lesson. And that's what we're going to be playing with here. Okay, I'm anticipating this is going to take somewhere between a little bit more than an hour to an hour and a half. So you need to time it accordingly. And the way I would do that is as a group, I would focus on your collaboration method. I decide how organize yourselves. Do you want to set aside a dedicated period of time for everyone to work? Do you want to lay out a set of steps and then have people work on it when they can, asynchronously? For instance, you could create a Google Doc and have people contribute to it over the course of a week based on assigning roles, etc. You can do it over remote conference such as Skype, Google Hangout, etc. Or again, you can do it via email as well. The one thing I'd ask is that everyone needs to participate in all steps. So don't ask one person to do the learning targets and another person to do the performance assessment. Make sure everyone's involved at all stages. People can have varying degrees, but I want to make sure everyone's eyes and contributions are in all phases of this. We all need practice in this area. Now, if you have questions, shoot me an email.